be the first to welcome you guys to Let's Get Real. We are so excited. Today is our first episode, and we want to thank you so much for joining us. This is an awesome panel that I'm going to introduce to you. To my right is the dashing, debonair Stephen Daddy B. Yes.
Motherfucking cheers.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. All the way to my left, we have the ever so sassy yet sage and wise lady herself, Erica by doing the house down, Miss Hannah.
Yes.
And not all the way, but right here, right next to me, right here, is the creator of this amazing production. The one with gorgeous eyes and bone structure himself, the one and only Andy.
You better call Tyrone.
Oh. And you all know me, my name is Tony Nunez, and we are here, so let's get real.
Thank you guys so much. Welcome to Let's Get Real. We're really excited about this. As Tony said, it's our first show, so we're super excited about it. Well, let's get into it, yeah? It seems that Kathy Griffin is making her way back into the public eye after almost a year of being shunned by it. But welcoming her back into the limelight was none other than himself, the highly controversial Bill Maher himself. Let's watch.
Bill, first of all, I really want to thank you for being one of the first and only people to publicly support me and say what happened was bullshit.
It was bullshit. Well, we've missed you. You know, I mean, it's true.
Oh, my goodness.
And you know, one thing nobody could ever take away from you, you are a hard worker.
I love it, man. I love it.
You got where you are through hard work.
I'm down to 3 gay guys. And you. And you.
And just in case you guys were sleeping under a rock when this happened, here's her tweet. And then, of course, there's Don's response.
Gosh, something wrong here.
She did, however, apologize.
Hey everybody, it's me, Kathy Griffin. I sincerely apologize. I am just now seeing the reaction of these images. I'm a comic. I crossed the line. I moved the line, then I crossed it. I went way too far. The image is too disturbing. I understand how it offends people. It wasn't funny. I get it. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. I will continue. I ask your forgiveness, taking down the image, gonna ask the photographer to take down the image, and I beg for your forgiveness. I went too far, I made a mistake, and I was wrong.
Now, Kathy Griffin did later retract her apology.
I'm no longer sorry. The whole outrage was BS. The whole thing got so blown out of proportion, and I lost everybody.
I don't know. I mean, what say you? I know she went on some European tours, and but she wasn't able to perform in the U.S. So now it looks like she might be, making a comeback. So did she go too far? If so, did the consequences fit the crime? If not, what should they have been?
Well, I know she had to scratch her U.S. tour. She has a new U.S. tour now that I have tickets for. Number one. But
You're plus one.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other thing is she did lose a lot of media gigs. Like she lost the New Year's Eve gig with
Anderson Cooper
yeah. And everything like that. And a lot of her friends in show business kind of abandoned her, and like I think it was early enough on in the presidency where they weren't really sure. They were still trying to show some type of support for the presidency, but they weren't really sure how to, take and react to him as well as something like that against him,
And can I also say, for Anderson Cooper, I'm super disappointed in him. Not only because he's a gay guy who is also in this he has this platform and he's able to to represent us, but he didn't support. He's not only just a friend, but somebody who stood up for basically what she believed in, right?
Yeah.
And she was also, it was within the First Amendment for her to do.
But
you know what? I personally, I have a hard time with somebody when, they crack a joke that's not that funny to begin with. I personally don't think it was funny. I don't support Trump at all, but I don't think the joke was funny. But then to apologize and then retract your apology, it's just really wishy-washy. It's just kind of like, if you're gonna stick to something, see it through all the way, you know, show some like conviction, and like she just didn't really do that. She just kind of went back and forth because she was just grappling so hard to, you know, build her career back up.
How about you, Stephen?
So when it comes to freedom of speech, I don't feel there's any such thing as going too far. It is the most important thing in America, I believe. So she made this, what you say is a joke, but I don't think it was a joke. I think it was more of a statement.
Yeah, I
Based
agree.
on the stuff that Trump says.
Yeah.
So I'm not a Trump supporter, but I firmly believe in democracy. Donald Trump is my president, whether I believe it or not. So although she was making a statement to say something violent and disparaging against the president, I'm sort of in a unique position because I'm sworn to obey and protect the president of the United States as a soldier. But the most disheartening thing about that wasn't what she said, it was the wishy-washy thing.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want, but stick to it. And then to comment on his tweet where he's like, my son read this and he's very, you know, disturbed by it. To think of some of the shit that Trump has said,
Yeah.
Right.
he's the worst influence between the two of them on his own son, I believe.
Yeah. As far as
So-
his kids go, if they really were that distraught about it, my thoughts and prayers go to them.
Right.
But also, I think that she apologized under pressure. I mean, she was under investigation by the
Which-
CIA, by the FBI. I mean, that's scary. Like, they literally took her
Yes.
entire life
Yes.
away from
Yes.
her livelihood,
Which,
which is bullshit.
This
Right.
isn't the first time a woman in entertainment has gotten something that has been completely like bombarded
Blacklisted.
and blacklisted by a president or a politician. This happened the same thing with Eartha Kitt many years ago,
Right.
where at that time she had her own dossier and they said that she was some sexual ravenous kind of like woman that was just crazy or whatever the case may be, just because she was protesting against the Vietnam War. And so what I feel is at this moment in time, you've got women that I think the fact that it was a woman comedian, like if Jimmy Kimmel was saying this or if Bill Maher was saying this, I feel like it would not have been as blown up as a big deal, but
And he
because she was
has said it.
exactly, but because he was, or making that type of a statement, you know. But I also feel that the reason why she did it was because the original statement was
Right.
really fucked up.
Yes,
This was an
right.
original statement that he made against Megyn Kelly at the presidential debates when she was moderating the debates.
Right.
Megyn Kelly was just doing her job, and from her doing her job, he goes and attacks her and brings up the fact that she has a period, maybe she was on it, maybe she wasn't, to try to reduce
Which is
her in front of the nation, which is
fucking
appalling
disgusting.
to me.
Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when the Dixie Chicks came out with their song. They were blacklisted by
Yeah.
all of the country radio stations
Yeah.
because of what they said about President Bush
Yeah.
at the
here's
time.
the thing about the
Yeah.
freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want, but you need to be ready to deal with the consequences. Again, I hate throwing out that I'm a soldier, but I say things to commanders and officers that I feel are right, and I'm punished for it sometimes. But I accept the punishment because I know what I'm about to say isn't what I'm supposed to say. So if you're a celebrity or you're not a celebrity or you're protesting, say whatever you want to say, but know that there's gonna be repercussions and don't hide from that shit.
But that's
my-
also
behind it.
but
that's
my-
also your job, though.
Right.
You're at work. You're
Right.
clocked in
Right.
a
Right.
sense.
Her
And
job
so
is
when you're a
entertainment.
free
Right.
person and you're in entertainment and
Right.
you're singing and you have this platform, if you say that, the consequences should be what? That
Well, I
people
do-
don't buy your CD.
Well, I do
That's-
understand what you're saying. I
Right.
do understand what you're saying, that because you're in the entertainment industry, you do have a responsibility to
Your
the
sponsors
public and
and
their
the public.
sponsors and all that. However, what my point is, yes, that should
Right.
go across the board. However, my point is, she's a woman.
Right.
Because she's a woman, it got blown out of proportion way more than if she was a man. Because men have said and done things politically,
Do you think
comedian-wise,
she's a woman?
against
No, if it was a guy,
Absolutely.
do you think it would be the same thing?
Absolutely,
You
it
know,
would not
I
be a
think-
big deal if it was a
yeah,
guy. It
I
would not
think-
be that big of a deal.
So I think that if like Bill Maher was like, you know, if he posted a photo of himself on his show and he, you know, cracked a joke about it,
He was
I
holding
think-
a head of.
yeah, or if he
Yeah.
like pulled it up
Well-
behind his desk or something,
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would be deemed funny.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anyone would bat an eyelash for that.
But
But
one, that
Or he would, after his apology,
It's still-
he would still have his
Right.
show
Yeah.
and he would still have his
But-
gigs.
I still think,
Right.
you know,
After his apology, he would still have his show and he would still have his gigs.
right. But he probably also wouldn't go back on his apology. But then again, the world of men is different than the world of
Thank
women.
you. Bingo.
It's a completely different
I think
reality
it's a
that we
completely
live
different
in.
thing, but if you remember, Stephen Colbert made a joke about Donald Trump being the Russian president's like talk poster,
Right.
and he almost lost his job. He lost sponsors. He lost a lot of shape. So it's not just men versus women. Where you're right, it is a completely different world, and it's way lopsided towards men. But your point about Bill Maher doing on his show behind his desk, that would have been in the process of entertainment,
Right.
whereas she was clearly making a personal attack over Twitter. But I do back up her right to say whatever she wants. I'm just saying, be prepared to lose sponsors, be prepared to lose fans, say whatever the fuck you want, but accept what happens after that.
Sure. Doesn't mean it's fair.
Okay, so the one point I would like to make, going back on the whole responsibility of being in the entertainment industry and
Yes.
having a voice and having a lot of draw.
Yes.
I personally, I have a friend who she posted something on Facebook. It was her personal opinion about a celebrity's death and about suicide. And she got so much backlash for what she had to say. It was her personal opinion. That a lot of people in the community that she strived in were, they kind of blacklisted her and said, you can't come here, you can't do that. They unfriended her, they blocked her, and it's there is something to be said about a certain responsibility that you have as somebody who has a voice in a community or a celebrity status, but at the same time, there's also, like my friend did, she stood by her belief.
You stand by.
And
Good.
she did not go back and apologize
Good.
because she believed what she said and she had every right to it. Same thing with Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
She should have done the same
Yeah.
thing. She should
Yes.
not have gone
I
back
agree.
on
She
her.
should have kept going.
Yeah.
But he like he said, she did have a tremendous amount of pressure when she was being
I believe
investigated,
that,
and
yeah.
that is a
Her mom, who's 80-something years old, was threatened.
Yeah.
Like that takes you to a whole
That's
different
a whole
level.
different
Like, I
place,
mean,
yeah.
it's a different
Yeah.
ballgame when you're in that situation.
Right.
When we're posting shit on Facebook, nobody's coming after our family,
Right.
or I mean, I hope not.
Right.
But when you're in that situation,
Right.
it's different.
Right.
Especially when you're dealing with Trump, who's fucking chaotic and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
absolutely.
But your Twitter feed probably doesn't have 1 million followers.
How do you know?
So, actually I don't. So this video is all over the web. A couple was trying to park in a parking structure, and a lady was standing in the middle of it trying to save it, causing some parking lot rage. Let's check it out.
Alright, baby.
You're about to get honked. Yo, you cannot do that. Get the
Are you
out
kidding?
of here.
No way!
You're not even in a car, woman. Are you serious?
No,
Get
no,
the
get
my
out of
way.
here! Are you kidding? You're not in a car! Get out!
Where? I don't see no car. You're
You
just
can't
running
just-
to a spot
are you
right now. Are you
kidding me?
serious? Are you? You're
No,
here
it
first.
doesn't
Are you kidding me?
matter.
You serious right now, woman?
So, I would find that infuriating.
What?
I can't imagine, I don't know where they were, how long they've been driving, but let's say I've been driving 2 hours, my kids are in the car, I'm trying to go to the mall, get some ice cream and do whatever, and this lady's fucking standing there telling me I can't park my car, you're about to get run the fuck down and move. What do you all
That's
think?
besides the point. I'm sorry, but there are no savies in life. I know we did that on the playground in recess, but
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
cannot
exactly.
play savies.
But did she go to school? Because like, who fucking does that?
I mean,
Like,
at
who does that?
the same time, of course, I think that's insane. However, I kind of admire her chutzpah at the whole situation. It's funny. This bitch ran. She ran from across the parking lot, and she was like, "You're not getting this much." She stood right in the middle. I was like, "Bitch,
Pure
that
balls.
takes some cojones."
Pure balls.
Cojones.
But no,
for sure.
she's getting fucking run over.
She was vicious.
I can't stand it. Like, I don't understand why there's not human fucking decency. Let me just tell you what this reminds me of. I was in a Ralph's or an Albertsons or whatever, and I was looking at soup, standing across from the aisle. This bitch comes up with her, what do you put your groceries in?
Carts.
Shopping cart. There you go. I don't know. In front of me, blocks my soup as I'm looking at it. I literally was looking at her bitch.
So,
I can't tell if I'm gonna get cheddar broccoli or minestrone now because your fucking cart is in front of my goddamn soup.
So I'm gonna mix your grocery idea with her idea. When I go to the grocery store, I'm gonna have my wife stand at the checkout, and not let everybody check out till I'm ready.
Right.
Because I was there first before them.
So here we go. So here we go. I think that is it a thing where other people are not allowed to do it, but you are or we are? I think that this kind of is
He's joking. He's joking.
Oh, okay, bitch.
I would never allow my guy to just
I was gonna say, hold on a second.
No, that's insane.
Hold on a second.
But
Does
wait,
anybody
wait.
have a dictionary? Can we pull up sarcasm?
But wait. But I feel like this is way on some extreme side that I don't even I can't understand. But like I have to say, like it kind of reminds me of when people, when you're pulling up to, a spot, you see somebody walking to their car, they see you pulling up, wanting to take their space, such and such person gets into the car and then takes their sweet ass time getting out of that parking spot because they know that you're waiting for that parking spot.
Or do they?
Yes, they do.
Or are they so
No,
self-absorbed?
No, there's eye contact. There's eye contact.
But see, I think that's what this video is hitting on, and that's why it's really so interesting, is that there's this me first attitude that permeates so many people. They're just they'll bulldoze they'll throw themselves in front of a moving vehicle to make sure that they get their fucking shit that they need to get done. I mean, literally, it's insane. Like, how far is too far?
But she wasn't there first. She didn't have a fucking car.
Right. It's a parking spot.
Exactly. Not a fucking
For
standing
cars.
spot.
That she was sprinting toward it.
I think, you know what? I'm sorry, but she's just a slut. And
Uppercut.
Fucking, like...
Fucking uppercut.
Oh.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Uppercut.
Did I offend you? Because slut is like...
I don't even think she looked like a slut. She looked like a house mom.
Slut is when I call someone a slut, it's because it's my version of asshole. Basically.
But I guess
That's not the same
I'm an
thing.
asshole and not a slut. So let's move on.
Oh.
A slut hole?
Okay, listen, I got this. Yes, actually.
I like that actually, a slut.
Okay, listen.
I'm hungry.
I have.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Continue.
Listen, I've been hearing a lot about this next subject. Obviously, we are in a very nuanced, new age kind of world. One of the coolest things about what's been happening with the transgender equality movement is that there's so much more transgender being represented in media, in entertainment, and since then, they have been getting us used to certain terminology, and one of the terms is cisgender, and we've been hearing this a lot, especially recently in the past 5-6 years. So the definition of a cisgender is denoting or relating to a person whose sense of personal identity and gender corresponds with their birth sex. So that means basically it's whatever you were born with is how you identify. You're calling yourself cisgender. This is a video that we found that NBC Out contributor Jacob Tobiah had tried to explain it, and I think he did a pretty decent job. Let's check it out.
I'm talking about the word cisgender. Don't know what the word cisgender means? That means you probably are cisgender. Cis is a prefix that means on the same side of. So if you're cisgender, it means that you identify on the same side of the sex you were assigned at birth. Gender identity is like a game show, and doctors are the contestants. When each of us are born, a doctor takes one look at us and makes a guess about what our gender identity will be.
Well, I see a penis, so I think that this baby will grow up to be a man. Did I get it right?
So obviously we're living in a time where I think a lot of millennials and post-millennials, Gen Z, are kind of not wanting to be kind of classified as labeled or labeled in any way, shape, or form. But terms kind of keep coming up in order to kind of define what people are in all the gray areas. So what do you guys think about this particular term?
I really just felt like it was just another label. It's like LGBTQA, we keep adding on and keep adding on. Why do we have to keep segregating ourselves?
I can understand that. This kind of reminds me of an experience that I had. Obviously, not just being gay. You're
You're gay?
You're homosexual, right?
What?
I'm so straight in so many ways. But no. But being obviously saying that you're homosexual, and there's people who are not homosexual that are kind of classified in between. That's great too. But saying that you're homosexual you're not going to say, oh, if I have a homosexual relationship with Steven, I'm not gonna say, oh, you guys are having a heterosexual relationship. Like, I get you guys are having, I'm not gonna say that your heterosexual relationship is normal to me, because this is my normal,
Right.
and your normal is a heterosexual relationship, but our normal is a homosexual relationship. So I'm not gonna say, oh, that's a normal relationship and ours is a gay relationship. I remember I emceed for the gay games back in 2010. So, a lot of people were walking around like, this is so much better than the normal Olympics. And you're like, oh, the normal Olympics. Except then one person was like, well, you know, I competed in the mainstream Olympics and I also competed in the gay Olympics. And I thought that was like a better way to put it, was there is mainstream where the bulk of people kind of fit. And then there is things that are normal for other people that are more marginalized that are not. So, you know what I mean? So we still kind of do need a differentiation in some cases.
But in that instance, wouldn't you say heterosexual and homosexual instead of cisgender, like?
But if transgender is becoming an identity and very clear.
That is also its own, you know,
right,
gender identity,
but when you,
fine,
but when
like,
you
why change heterosexual?
No, you wouldn't, because heterosexual has nothing to do with cisgender.
It's not about your sexuality, it's about what gender you identify with. It's about how we have been made to feel so different. And I think now, you know, as gay men, as straight men, as gay women, as you know, lesbian women, we all have to feel like we belong in a certain situation, in a certain place, and this is how we do it, by labeling ourselves.
Yes, at the same time, doesn't that create more division by like categorizing someone in one bucket and categorizing? Why can't we all just be cool?
But you're right. You're right in a
like,
you're right in a utopian society, except that that's not the world. That's not the world that we live in. That's not the world that we live in.
I live in.
I actually, on most parts, I hate labels in general. I hate African American. Why are they just Americans?
Did you just tell me you hate black people?
No, I hate the term African Americans.
I had to clear that up.
They should just be Americans. You know, why do you have to label everything? But in this case, I see the point. Because let's say he came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm transgender." I go, "Oh, I'm normal." That's fucked up.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the thing: is that I know.
But I would just say I'm straight.
A lot of people, but that is a label in itself. That's not. No, but that has nothing. Straight, your sexuality has nothing to do with how you identify sexually.
So I
like Kris Jenner, right? Like Bruce Jenner, who turned into Caitlyn. He never changed his sexuality. He was still attracted to women, even though his gender. He came out with his gender as what it was.
I could be cisgender and gay, but also cisgender and straight.
Correct.
I'm cisgender and straight.
I'm cisgender and gay. Right. Exactly.
Because cisgender it has nothing to do with who you want to fuck.
Right.
It has to do with
what you identify
who you feel
as.
like. I'm a guy, right?
Yeah. Biologically.
Tony's a guy. You're a guy.
Right.
Hannah is a girl.
We're all cisgender.
Allegedly.
But we're gay and straight.
But we all know that Hannah can very well have a vagina.
Yes.
Right. Maybe inside, she could be feeling like, I've grown up as a guy. I'm a dude.
Right.
You know, obviously she's not, because look how adorbs she is and like fucking pretty. I fucking hate that bitch. But like still, like it's one of those things where, you know, that's the difference, is what I'm trying to say.
Some of us need an identifying mark.
Right.
Like some of us do need to have an identity in order for us to get some type of pride and confidence for us to continue in our daily lives.
Yeah, and that's not something I would want to take away from anyone. And that's not a situation
and so you
where
could have
I'd be
pride
like,
in whatever
normal
you
and you're
identify
not.
as. Right, exactly. Okay.
Students across the nation speak and even walk out as the fight for gun control continues. The survivors of the February 14th shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, took the stage at the iHeart Music Awards a few days ago, asking for reform. There are many opinions on this, so let's watch.
February 14th, a gunman armed with a legally purchased semi-automatic rifle murdered 17 people at my high school, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, in Parkland, Florida. We're tired of hearing politicians send their thoughts and prayers to us and doing nothing to make the necessary changes to prevent this tragedy from happening again. School is a place where we should feel safe, and if those elected to represent us won't do what's right to keep us safe, then we're going to be too loud for them to ignore.
There's so many other children around this country who feel the same and who want to come out here and do similar. And I think that soon our voices will have to be heard.
I am afraid that I will be the next shooting, and I am afraid that my family will have to hear the news that I didn't make it. And I'm really angry that it's gone on this long.
You don't suspect it to happen, and then it happens, and it's just this like grave realization that like it can happen to any of us, and that's why we're enraged, and that's why we really want action to be done.
We refuse to learn in fear. We reject turning our schools into prisons. We will accept nothing less than comprehensive gun control. And if it's what it takes, we will shame our national policymakers into protecting us.
Do you think the politicians are listening?
I really hope they are, and I just think it's so important to see children be involved, and I think politics and be involved in their constitutional rights.
When I see young people learning about self-advocacy and like if you scream, they might eventually hear you, I just am so moved when I see young people practicing what they ultimately will need to use to create the future.
I'm a big Second Amendment person, NRA member, proud NRA member. These are one of those moments that I don't think it's my turn to talk. I think we can listen to kids right now. I've said what I've had to say at length. Everyone knows where I stand. I don't like the idea that somehow, if you're a Second Amendment person, that you're for gun violence. I appreciate
The American
activism.
activism,
I
yes.
appreciate, of course,
And
teenagers being politically.
Nobody is for gun violence. Nobody is for gun violence.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And I think that it sometimes gets mixed up that maybe you're less empathetic, you're less hurt, you're less somehow affected by school shootings in one way or another. No law-abiding gun owner wants anything like this to happen ever again. I just think right now it's a very interesting place for someone like me because we've talked about it on the show. You weren't here yet, Sarah, you were still on maternity leave, but like the CNN town hall I thought was a huge step backwards. I felt bad for the way it was handled. I thought it was really inappropriate.
Well, they don't want an AK-47 in their face. I don't want one either. So if there's a way, you know, but my point is...
I don't want one in my face
Well,
either.
no, well, that's why we can all agree.
But I don't want it. I don't want it made illegal either.
I agree with Condoleezza Rice. I do not think that our citizens need military-style equipment. I do not think that, and I do want it to be made illegal. I'm sorry.
Well,
I think less people die when you don't have those types of guns accessible to citizens.
I disagree with Sonny. I don't think AR-15s should be banned at all. I know people who hunt with them, and I just, again, I just wish there was a little more. To me, any protest like this, and I respect the kids that are doing it, obviously, because I believe in political activism and I believe in your First Amendment, but it gets caught up a lot in anti-Second Amendment, anti-NRA.
We've been told that we need to listen to the children. I do what the children ask. Are there any children on this floor? Are there any children making laws? Do we allow the children to tell us that we should pass a law that says no homework? Or you finish high school at the age of 12 just because they want it so? No. The adults make the laws because we have the age, we have the wisdom, and we have the experience.
Okay, since I has the power right now, Elizabeth Porter, A, do you have any children? B, have you met a teenager? First of all, teenagers do not listen to all the adults that are around them. They do what they want to do. Secondly, I'm not that far off from when I was a teenager. I remember being very, very like vigilant with my beliefs and hardcore about it. And like even if it was, I was very strong-willed. Even if it was against what, you know, either my parents thought or believed or what someone else who was conservative or didn't believe the things it was like to the core, I believed it and I walked with it as a teenager. So Elizabeth Porter, shut up.
And I agree too, like, you know, 2 years ago when I was a teenager, what? Stop.
Cosplay, I love it.
So I just, you know, here's the thing. You know, Elizabeth Porter says, first of all, Meghan McCain, I fucking can't stand. I can't stand some of these people who have no idea. You don't understand what it's like to live in and to grow up in that type of environment. So of course you're gonna say, what do these people know? Because you have no idea. So you, Elizabeth Porter, who doesn't look like you've missed a meal, I'm pretty sure you have no idea what it's actually like to suffer. Honey, I'm sorry, but yeah, maybe children aren't on that floor, but listen to them, because they're in charge of the future. And when you are in a rest home, they're gonna be deciding what happens to you, sweetheart.
So she was saying how there's no children on this floor, there's no children making the laws, but it's the children who are getting fucking shot. So since they're the ones getting shot, maybe they're the ones who should be heard. And I remember 45 years ago when I was a teenager, that I remember thinking that like, no one listens to us. No one fucking cares. And I think it's amazing that they're getting so much media coverage, and with social media these days, they are finally fucking being heard, and something needs to be done. And she keeps saying that we don't listen to the children, but I highly doubt that she cares when a 17-year-old signs up for the military to go die for her fucking rights and say whatever the fuck she wants. So I'm with you, fuck her.
Good point. Amen. I honestly, at this point in the nation, with the whole movement on, regulating gun control, these kids are just so near and dear to my heart right now. As I said before, like, I lost 2 friends at Pulse. I was in Vegas for those shootings, and coming out of the Luxor when things were going fucking crazy, and I cannot tell you the terror that you experience as a civilian, non-trained person. I understand, as a military person, it is still an intense situation for you guys to be in that type of situation, but as a civilian, non-trained person, I cannot tell you the terror that you experience. And for these kids in their developmental stages to actually have to go through that, feel that, experience that, and for her to sit there with hubris and say that we shouldn't listen to them, she can eat a fucking bag of dicks as far as I'm concerned, and choke on them and die. And literally, we fill that Congress spot with one of those 17-year-old kids.
When was the Second Amendment written?
Before
in
that
times,
existed.
exactly, in times of muskets and shit like that. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And so, Meghan McCain, like I told you before, who is so protective over the Second Amendment and does not, over the protection of AR-15s, and does not want to ban them, does not want to make them illegal. If this happened to her niece, nephew, cousin, whatever, she wouldn't be talking like this.
Well, the problem that I have with NRA members, and I don't have problems with NRA members because I've slept with several, but one of the problems that I might have with them is the fact that they literally, because it's not really NRA members as much as it is the founders of the NRA and the top people at NRA that literally have to deflect the real issue at hand, because they want zero regulation of guns. They want zero regulation because if 1 cent gets affected in their bank account, they throw a fit. As it is, the NRA is suing the state of Florida for passing legislation to not have under 21-year-olds purchase automatic rifles.
Which is less than 10% of all of the mass shootings anyway.
Right, which is insane to me that they decided to do this, but it shows you how greedy they are in terms of not wanting to lose 1 penny of sales in any gun item ever, and still continue to have the government in their back pocket.
It's about money, it's about billions of dollars, it's about sponsors, it's about power, it's about all of that. And so, but that's the country we currently live in. This is the climate that we're in. We're talking about,
very nauseating.
It really is actually
very nauseating.
Yes. And I tried to hear the other side, the NRA supporters side of this. There was a podcast that I was listening to, and I was appalled because the speaker was saying how in the last few years we've had less and less reported cases of gun violence and gun shootings and deaths. And then I went and did my own research, because it's one thing for someone to say something to you, it's another thing for you to actually go open the internet and start doing some real research, not some fake articles. Actually do your research and then look and see what the real information is out there, the real statistics, and it's the polar opposite. It's been increasing significantly over the last 4 years. It is so scary. It's so sad.
So I was trying to stay off topic of gun control, which it seems like what we're slipping, but I do have quite a bit to say. I'll let you go ahead and finish up.
Well, here's the thing, like, it's not off topic because these kids are actually asking for gun reform, right? So it is about gun control. It is about the NRA. It is about our current gun laws. It is about these situations. So I don't think we're off topic. I think we're on topic.
My thing is, if that guy has an AR-15, I want the right to have an AR-15 because he doesn't give a fuck if it's illegal because he already has the goddamn thing. So if you make guns illegal, only outlaws will have guns. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not, I don't know how you feel, but I'm not against banning all guns.
Yeah.
I'm only against banning military style assault weapons.
Well, but like for your point to say if he has one, then I should have one. You could say the same thing. Like if he can possess heroin, I should be able to possess heroin. I mean that doesn't really balance for me. I think for me being being in a situation like Las Vegas and without getting into detail because this is very sensitive for me. Without getting into a lot of detail, what we saw, what all of the people who were there saw and felt on that day and that night was completely different than what was projected in the media. And what we know happened was completely different than what was projected in the media. And I'm not gonna go into detail because I do not, I felt like when I started posting stuff immediately right afterward, I felt there was people that was posting similar things to me and then all of a sudden they started disappearing, all of a sudden they started dying for no reason. And this is a very sensitive subject for me. The fact is that this country has a phobia about the guns being affected. Now, I agree with you in that we don't need to have them all taken away because of the history of this country and its inception. However, what we do need 100% is regulations. Like Obama said, if we have a car, when there was all these car deaths and accidents in the 60s and 70s, well, they started putting seatbelts in the cars. They started putting speed limits on the roads. They started putting regulations to regulate what people are using. And so this is the same. We have restrictions for people. Certain people can't get licenses with certain issues. So I agree. I think that certain people should not be able to get guns. What do you think civilians should be getting as far as protection goes?
So again, as someone in the military,
non-trained civilians, PS.
My problem isn't with what should be banned or not banned. I'm against prohibition of anything. If you ban AR-15s, you're going to create a black market for AR-15s. Doesn't matter if you fucking outlaw it. Heroin's illegal. Give me 10 minutes, I'll have heroin in my fucking pocket. So it's creating a whole other problem of black markets, illegal. If the gun's illegal, it doesn't matter because if someone wants it, they're gonna fucking get it. So if someone can get it illegally, why not just let them get it legally? Now regulate it. It doesn't need to be able to fire 30 bullets a second.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. You don't need 100 bullets in one clip.
Yeah.
But to ban something altogether would create another problem.
Speaking of heroin, because this is the reason why I planted the seed earlier, and you walked right into my trap. Speaking of heroin, what happened in Portugal was that heroin use was the #2 cause of government spending as far as problems in the country that they actually had to worry about. And so what they decided, as far as policing it, as far as criminalizing it, as far as the medical situation, federal spending was a #2, and it had a lot to do with heroin usage, interestingly enough. And so what happened was they took the actual concept that they used was they actually told everybody, look, if you're a heroin user, bring in your heroin to us. You're not going to get in trouble. We will safely, with clean needles, provide you with heroin to wean you off of it, and then, we can take it from there. That problem, everybody started to do that. That problem, they stopped criminalizing it. That problem went from number 2 to number 25. So my point is that even though it wasn't criminalized, it was regulated.
Right. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up is why, with all the technological advances that we've had, why isn't it that we haven't created a system where there's like weapon or gun detection around a circumference of certain public buildings, like schools, like that would just take out the whole, you know, having security, having teachers with guns, bringing more guns into the environment. If the minute somebody walks onto the premises with a weapon, with a gun, with a knife, with something that like is detected, like I know this is so futuristic. It sounds futuristic, but at the same time,
Tesla, kick it in.
I know they're Tesla. Can you please help us?
No.
This is your chance to make a huge change in this world.
Elon Musk. Back in the 60s,
we're calling you.
Back in the 60s, when I was in elementary school, we had metal detectors. Okay, in junior high. And so this isn't a revolutionary thing. It's just something that needs to be implemented. Where's the fucking budget for these types of things? We need a budget.
Another subject.
But I'm like talking about a
subject.
Broader than just a metal detector.
You're talking advanced technology. You're talking some Black Panther shit.
No, you're talking about
Wakanda forever.
Already exists.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're talking about shit that exists already. It's the cost of.
So our children's lives are not worth that cost.
No, I think it is.
How many people out there own Teslas? First of all, the money's there. That's all I'm saying. If you care about your children, you'll care about supporting something like this.
Think about it this way, though. You have schools that can't afford books. They're not going to put what you're talking about on their building.
I agree, but that's not the school's responsibility. It should be the government. It should be the government's responsibility.
No, I completely agree. Trust me.
It should be the federal.
Well, this is obviously a very passionate subject. It's not going to get resolved within this segment, but there's a lot of opinions. So.
If you have any more opinions, please email us, and maybe we'll read one of them next time on the show.
World-renowned scientist Stephen Hawking died last week after complications due to his amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a progressive neurodegenerative disease. He was 76. Stephen was also known for his views on God and religion. Take a look.
We are each free to believe what we want. And it's my view that the simplest explanation is, there is no God. No one created the universe, and no one directs our fate. This leads me to a profound realization. There is probably no heaven, and no afterlife either. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe. And for that, I am extremely grateful.
So, the idea of God and religion in general is something that obviously is very divisive, very controversial, and something that I believe divides the world more than it brings it together. Now, I'm, agnostic. I guess that makes me sort of a coward because I won't pick one or the other. I believe that any possibility is possible. It's possible there's no God. It's possible there is a God. It's possible there's many gods. But I lean towards more than no God.
Well, I do want to acknowledge, first of all, the life of Stephen Hawking. It's incredible. I mean, the story of Stephen Hawking is amazing. I mean, he was given 2 years to live. He died at the age of 76.
Right.
I think that's beautiful.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. We were talking about earlier with the students, we were discussing the NRA and how they did their walkout. The first student said, I'm tired of politicians sending their thoughts and prayers.
Right.
And so I just want to briefly show this video, if we can, of a video that I saw, a comedian who I love, Anthony Jeselnik.
He's amazing.
He really is amazing. Let's take a look.
This is who I'm making fun of when I make a joke on Twitter the day of a tragedy. The people who see something horrible happen in the world, and they run to the internet. and they run to their social media, their Facebook, their Twitter, whatever they got, and they all write down the exact same thing. My thoughts and prayers. My thoughts and prayers with the people in Aurora. My thoughts and prayers with the families in Boston. Do you know what that's worth? Fucking nothing. Fucking less than nothing.
So, you know, for me, I grew up hardcore Catholic. I was baptized Catholic. I did my, exactly, I went to my first communion. I was an altar boy. I was a lector. I taught catechism. I went to Catholic high school. And so, you know, I agree. I mean, listen, we are in a country where, you know, we are allowed to express our views in a religious way if we want to, and that's beautiful.
Which is glorious.
However, when
glorious.
it crosses into the political realm, that's when I have a problem. That's when you're affecting me. That's when you're affecting the people around me. That's when you're affecting my future children. And so, you know, I personally don't believe in God as the way that I was taught. However, you know, it doesn't matter what I believe in. What matters is that we treat each other with respect.
Absolutely.
That we treat each other as equals.
Well, but see, here's the thing about that and what you're saying is that I feel like a lot of people blur institutionalized religion and concepts of God with actual legitimate interpersonal spirituality. And those are two separate things. Sometimes the institutions of religion and people's concepts of God are the vehicle that carry them to their spirituality. Whatever gets you there, great. I'm a Mother Teresa fan. I really am. She died around the same time that Princess Di died, and I was like crying about both of them. Like I literally was like, you know. But that does not mean that just because you are labeled as under a particular institution that you're not necessarily authentic in your spirituality either.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm in complete agreement with you on the spirituality thing. I think that's a very personal experience, but organized religion has a really sordid and tainted past, and it's all about, I'm sorry to say it, you can disagree with me, power. Power, money, and controlling a civilization. That is what it all comes down to with organized religion. If you sit down and you actually study some history, it is not about the lovely stories in the books. It is about controlling people. And
those stories in the books aren't lovely, especially if you look at the Old Testament.
Well, the ones that people like to throw out there.
Well, yeah, of course, it's a cherry picking situation.
Right.
Yeah, it's pick and choose whatever you want, right? Yeah. But that's the thing. That's my thing is that people can be under an institution and still find a way to personalize the things that they want to hear and want to go off of. And then call it, oh, I'm Catholic, or I call it, oh, I'm Jewish, or call it, oh, I'm Islamic. So you have to understand that it's a vehicle, not necessarily something that people need to subscribe to.
Well, the same verses in the Bible have been used to create wars as well as to protest them. And so you can, it's very subjective, obviously. I don't think personally that the Bible, which I think is a story book, and some of them are.
It's great literature.
Stories. I believe it's great literature as well.
Literature, yeah.
I love
words.
I love, you know, one of my.
So is the Quran, so is the Torah. They're great literature. They're great literature. Lots of good literature in it. Lots of good stories, lots of good literature, lots of good lessons. Go.
I agree. No, I agree. However, it's also horrifying.
When the United States became the United States, it was founded on Puritan beliefs.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
start off.
Absolutely. And they called it freedom of religion, but it was the freedom to practice their religion, not any religion.
Right.
And so this just morphed into whatever it morphed into. And like that's why we kind of generally find ourselves as being more of a salad versus a melting pot. We're not like all one, like the Puritans wanted. It's like kind of more like a mixture, religiously.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, listen, I'm very anti-religion. I think that this world would be better off without religion. I think that we would be in a more peaceful place if we did not have religion. However, I also do not discriminate want anybody to feel out of place if they are religious. I think that it's a beautiful thing to have that sort of spiritual belief. If you want to have it, that's great. I think that's awesome.
I was a school teacher, okay? And the type of school, the method of teaching that we were taught in its fundamental form was developed in the Industrial Revolution. You had a foreman that gave instructions to a bunch of people under them, and they were expected to follow their instructions. And so I found when I was testing my kids that it was more so how they followed directions versus how the answers that they gave that was really being scored, and that really turned me off of my teaching altogether, and so I wound up quitting eventually.
In order to be religious or to believe in God, you have to suspend rationality. You have to suspend logic. There's like a part of your brain that you wall off.
Well, I don't know that there's a
believe in
suspension of it. I do feel like some people do suspend it. There is a scripture.
Can I say I like when you touch me? Okay.
There is a scripture that I do remember from my younger years of being in a religious family household that is in Hebrews that talks about the definition of faith, and it says that faith is the belief in things not seen but felt. And so it's kind of interesting, or I just kind of surmised it like that, but it's kind of interesting. That's what people's response to you in that statement would be, is that even though they have no proof, but if they feel it, they believe it, and that could be like what we call the placebo effect. And there is some type of reality to that type of energy that people can put behind it. So when you just say logical rationale, I understand that, but when it's up against an energy and a force of intention, sometimes that just doesn't pan out with people who are way on the other side.
Right. Well, were you raised Muslim?
Not really. I mean, my family background is, but my parents were not, worshipers of anything. I went to a Christian church for 2 years. They were totally okay with that, and growing up they were always like, we accept all religions, we accept all prophets, just do good, like be a good person, treat other people kindly. So they kind of instilled, all of the things that a lot of religions teach to, basically be a good person, be a good Samaritan.
The true essence of any religious person should be about is putting others before self. And so if you can do that and separate it from the institution and the really, really menial laws and regulations that come along with it and judgments, then I think you're doing great.
I don't personally think that religion needs to dictate our morals, personally. I think that it is innate within ourselves as human beings.
Yeah.
But just sitting here and watching you, by the way, I just have a question, because you have a tattoo or two on your arms. Are you a Wiccan, or?
So, I'm not really in anything. So, I'm not against spirituality or the idea of God. I'm against religion, because it takes that idea and perverts it to everything you guys said. I sort of wish I spoke first, because you motherfuckers took everything I wanted to say. So, for the last 10 minutes, I've been sitting here saying nothing, because every idea I had...
Well, say what you need to say.
There's no reason for a church, no matter what the religion is. And it's funny, because every religion, no matter what, has the same core belief, but there are wars and genocide over religion, and it's all about God and just basically not being a fucking asshole. Yet, for some reason, we can't get it right. And what you were saying, where there'd be a lot more peace without religion, it's exactly what John Lennon said in his song Imagine, and it would be. So, I'm not a Wiccan. I did kind of look into it when I was younger, because I went through my little rebellious stage. But the main purpose of the pentagram tattoos isn't to say that I was Wiccan, it was to show that I was anti-Christian. I'm not against anyone who calls himself anything, as long as you're not against me for not, I will never tear someone down for believing in God. Don't tear me down because I don't believe in God.
The story of Christ has been, it's a story that has been floating around the Mediterranean for thousands of years. When you talk about, Horus, and look it up if you don't know who Horus is, but it's basically, this story has happened over and over again. And you know, to those of you who believe in Jesus Christ, great.
Yes.
Like, I'm stoked for you. I hope that you're happy, and I hope that that brings you peace. But also don't impose your fucking shit on me.
Right.
Because I don't believe in that. I believe in proof.
Exactly.
I believe in things that I can see, things that are tangible, things that I can look at, and I believe in science.
Interestingly enough, there are similar Jesus Christ stories in other cultures across the globe. And so, and just like there are similar God stories in other cultures across the globe, in similar time frames as well. So when you think about that, there has to be some sense of spiritual thirst and need within people to actually produce a story like that. Similar stories that have nothing to do with one another, but it's just so coincidentally happen to be similar. You know, kind of like pyramids in Egypt versus, you know, pyramids in the Incan Empire. It's crazy. Right? So at the end of the day, as divisive as this subject is, I feel like if people take it less personally, it could also be very uniting at the same time in a very weird way. I don't know.
Believe whatever it is that you want to believe in, you know, but at the same time, you know, you have no bearing on what happens in my life.
Other people's lives.
Well, how do you think women feel when our bodies are constantly attacked by politics? Honestly.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I do want to say, you know, first of all, thank you guys so much for being on this panel. I'm really super excited about this. I hope that you all at home are also. You know, we, as an LGBTQ, I'm gonna add an S because of straight. No. Right. At having you know, two straight people on our panel, you know, we don't have a platform here currently for these topics, and so it's really exciting to me that we are all able to be here, communicate our real views, and be genuine. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens, whether I agree with you, whether I disagree with you, or whatever, we still can leave here at the end of the day and know that we're still friends.
Right.
And we still care about one another and each other's rights. And that's super important to me.
Right.
So on that note,
yes,
that's all the time that we have here. We want to thank you all for watching. So please show your support for our show by following us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at So Let's Get Real. And remember, be the change you want to see.
In this country, you can be conservative.
Or you can be liberal.
But no matter what side you're on, we can all live together, coexist peacefully, but especially drink together.
Oh yes. So you know what?